You are listening to the Therefore a Geek podcast, episode 69. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Therefore a Geek. I'm Andrew.
And I am the defender of Azeroth! Or Lordaeron.
Or something.
Or one of those places.
So, obviously, we are talking this week about Warcraft.
A Warcraft, the beginning.
Yeah, so I didn't realize that until I was just looking at the IMDb page that there's actually the beginning.
Same here. I was like, I better pull the IMDb page up while we're talking about it. It's like, Warcraft, the beginning. I don't remember that.
I mean, it says the beginning. I don't think there's going to be much more than the beginning.
Yeah. Should just the beginning and the end, and never again.
And the death of the franchise, and...
Yeah, this was just a mess. Alright, so Warcraft, the beginning. 2 worlds, 1 home. In this is basically the big screen adaptation of the massively popular video game franchise from Blizzard Entertainment, starting all the way back in 1994 with the real-time strategy game Warcraft, Orcs and Humans, and then continuing with Warcraft 2, Tides of Darkness, Warcraft to the Dark Portal, and then Warcraft 3, Reign of Chaos, and then it explodes into World of Warcraft.
Yes, the epic, massive multiplayer.
Right, which is, and then that's been going on for now, what, 10 years? 15 years?
10 or 12.
Yeah, something like that. And the basic plot of this movie follows the basic plot of the very first game, where the orcs have opened a magical portal from their universe or homeworld or land, wherever it is, and travel to the land of the humans and elves and dwarfs and gnomes in a place called Azeroth, and they fight a war.
Yeah.
And in that game, it was really just that. It was just orcs and humans. And then in the second game, you kind of brought in more stuff as games got better, and you got more memory and more graphics. And that's basically it. The movie is directed by a director of some renown named Duncan Jones, who a lot of people had a lot of hopes for because Duncan was a very big Warcraft fan, and he was known for the 2009 movie Moon with Sam Rockwell.
That was a really good movie. And
the movie Source Code with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Didn't see Source Code. I think I actually own Moon as well, but I saw Moon and really enjoyed it. That was a great kind of psychological film.
Yeah. The movie stars Travis Fimmel as Lothar, the kind of big hero between the two games. Yep. I didn't know much about this guy. He's in the show The Vikings. I haven't watched anything this guy's in.
No, I didn't recognize him from anything either.
Paula Patton plays a pretty big role as like a half-orc, half-human called Rana, which was strange. I don't know much about her. The only actor I really recognized was Ben Foster. Foster, sorry. And I recognized him from 3:10 to Yuma. He was like the psychopath from 3:10 to Yuma.
I'm fairly certain. Let me look here for a second. I'm fairly certain I recognize him from like work when he was a kid doing like Disney Channel shit.
Okay. Oh yeah, that's right. I think I remember articles like the psychopath from 3:10 to Yuma like did Disney. And then there's, of course, the orc heroes, Duratan, played by Toby Kebbell, who I don't recognize, and then Gul'dan, the kind of orc leader, which is something they switched up, a guy named Daniel Wu. Again, really didn't recognize any of these people.
So Ben Foster got his start on a show called Flash Forward, which is the same show that Jewel State got her big start on. Jewel State is the engineer from Firefly's Kaylee.
Got it. Oh, and then of course there's what's the guy's name? Kadar, which is the wizard. What was the wizard's name?
Khadgar.
Khadgar, who is a big character in the second expansion for the second game. He's the one closes the portal.
So you know, what's your what has been your level of involvement in the Warcraft franchise?
All right, so Warcraft does have a special... Warcraft 2 in particular. I don't remember Warcraft 1 very much, but Warcraft 2, Tides of Darkness, and Warcraft 2, The Dark Portal, have very special places in my heart because in the mid to late 90s, I was playing those things like it was going out of style.
Yeah.
That was like your first... We've talked about war games before on this podcast, Meek, and that was really the first game of any type, war game of any type that I played. I was hooked immediately. So you can almost blame Warcraft for my obsession with war games today. And it was just a really, really fun, easy to play, engrossing game that you just got hooked on. That had the right amount of melodrama and the right amount of humor that just made you want to keep coming back and playing it over and over again.
Yeah.
I don't remember playing the first game very much. I played Warcraft 2 multiple times. Didn't really play Warcraft 3 and had no involvement in World of Warcraft. So really, I was just a die-hard Warcraft 2 player.
Yeah. Yeah, and I definitely started with Warcraft 2. That was definitely my first real-time strategy game. It was also one of the games one of my close friends, Chad, introduced me to, along with like Final Fantasy VII, Chrono Trigger, Earth, but like a lot of like the video games that kind of I've built my base of gaming off of were introductions from Chad. Played Warcraft 3 a little bit. I still have never like actually beaten Warcraft 3 just because I kind of stopped caring. And I've played a little bit of World of Warcraft too. My brother-in-law is a pretty avid player, and he got me to play for a little while. I've actually thought about going back and playing because I think it's fun, but and kind of as a guilty pleasure, not too recently I have read some of the fluff novels, like the background.
Oh yeah.
The backstory fluff novels. It realistically, it's the material that the movie kind of covers, and
right.
I always really enjoy that. You know, like, I don't know if your copy of Warcraft came with, but it had like the thick instruction book.
Like, here's what's funny. Here's what's really funny. That was never my copy of Warcraft. So my buddy, I had a younger friend named Tommy who had the game.
Yeah. And
I was over his house almost daily playing that game. It was his game. I think I played it more than him.
Nice. Yeah.
So yeah, I do remember that instruction manual, but it was never my game.
Yeah, there was some really great like fluff material in that, along with some great art. I want to say the guy's name was Dan. The first name was Dan, but the last name was Metzen, Metzen. Just some great artwork in there. And I used to sit and read just the instruction book for all the fluff. And so when I saw there's a like 1,000-page book of all the backstory. Basically, it's like 4 novels in one. One of the kind of like what Black Library does for Warhammer stuff.
Yeah.
Where they here's 4 books in one giant fuck book.
Yeah.
So I was basically reading that for Warcraft. So that's a guilty pleasure of mine, but it's not great reading, but it's fun. It's light reading.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good when something fantasy has to have like 2 things. One, you need a map, otherwise it doesn't count. You always have to have a map in fantasy. And
it's like 2, a country; it has to have a flag. Got
to have a flag to get that. I remember. So there's this author named David Gemmell. He did the I think it's called the Druce stories. This character named Druce, which is kind of like his Conan.
Yeah.
And in the first book, Legend, there was no map, and I was like, this doesn't count. There's no map. This is not a true fantasy story. No map. And then you got to have like that background lore. You got to give it history.
Yeah.
Got to give it that history makes all the difference. Every fantasy writer from frickin' Howard through Tolkien through Gemmell all the way up to Martin, they have some history that they can give you, and that's always really important. That's just kind of, I guess to me it always made it feel like if they spent that much time giving you history, then it's worth my time.
Well, it gives it a consistency and makes you feel like it's well thought out.
Mm-hmm.
in certain cases, like George R. R. Martin or something, the history is great, and then the books themselves get a little too dense and convoluted, and
At least the latter two.
yeah, but the history is still pretty. The history in the background is solid, and it makes you feel like this is an actual existing universe.
Yeah, with guys like Howard, he just wrote like an essay called The Hyborian Age.
Yep.
And he just went through the world that he had created. He wrote it, I think, after he had finished 2 or 3 of the Conan stories. It was like, okay, I need to standardize this or it's going to get ridiculous.
Yeah, and we're getting a little off topic here, but Howard specifically did that because the Kull series got out of hand because he was inconsistent.
Yeah. And, I mean, even Tolkien did it with, like, I think the appendix to Return of the King. So
yeah.
that kind of won me over. But clearly, I don't think they did that much with this movie.
Right. So, this movie has gotten pretty awful reviews. It's been compared to Battlefield Earth, like the Battlefield Earth of our time.
Yeah, I remember that article.
There's a great quote in that I want to read because and I don't necessarily, having now seen the movie, I don't necessarily agree with it.
Yeah, you showed me that article, man. And I think he was overblown just a little bit. I mean, he had some. He was. It's one of those things where critics just, all right, I'm going crazy because no one really cares.
Yeah, much like there's a Rolling Stone review of Fantastic Four that I don't know if I said that to you. I don't know if you ever read it.
No, I did not.
It's one of the greatest terrible reviews I've ever read, but this is a close second. And the writer and the reviewer is talking about the idea of the hope that people had that Warcraft was going to bridge the gap between video games and movies.
Mm-hmm.
And it says, now, 10 years and several directors after it was first announced, Warcraft is finally here. And not only does it fail to bridge the gap between movies and video games, it self-immolates and swan dives into the void, illuminating the dark rift that's even deeper than it is wide. A grotesque funhouse reflection of a modern blockbuster cinema. The film is truly a staggering failure, and there is no joy to be found in its profound awfulness.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd go that far, but it's not a good film. I mean, I saw it. I saw it late night. I think on a Sunday night last week.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing I was going to say about it. Like, it's getting consistently reviews like that, and I don't think it's quite that bad.
No, it's certainly not. I agree with you. It's dumb. It's definitely dumb, and but it's not a movie I'm laughing at like, oh my god, what is wrong with this movie? What am I watching? This is a mess.
Yeah, there were walking in, having seen reviews like that, I was hopeful for something so awful it is spectacular in its nonsense and its disaster. You know, the old adage of watching a train wreck. I couldn't,
right?
And instead of being, I can't turn away. I don't know what's going to happen next. I don't know what stupid thing they're going to do now. I was like, kept looking at my watch. I'm like, what time is it? How much longer am I here?
Yeah, it's kind of a drag of a movie. It starts off moving at a pretty serious click. Like the action starts pretty quickly, and then it just kind of ends with a whimper in my mind.
Yeah. Well,
there are some confusing moments in that film where you're just like, why are we doing this? What's going on now?
Why are we doing this? Who's doing what? Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's who? Especially among the orcs. So I mean, you get introduced to the main orc character Durotan pretty quickly.
Yes.
But there were several characters along with him I was left guessing at. Like, again, knowing the lore and the fluff, I knew who the characters were, but I was waiting for the movie to introduce them.
Right.
And like Orgrim Doomhammer took like an hour and a half to introduce.
Yeah, and I should be pointed out, like in the game, because one thing I love about the game is when they they give you the mission, they give you the scroll, and like Orgrim Doomhammer wants you to take Calls Mudan from the Lorien, something like that.
Man, that was, hey, just a side note, that was a great voiceover. It was so ridiculously over the top, but man, did I love it.
Let me send you. We got to put these links in the low bar because I found like a compilation on YouTube of both the human and orc like intros to the missions.
Nice.
And I think I think together for like, if for both Tides of Darkness and the Dark Portal, it'll take you about an hour to go through them, but they are so worth it. They're so funny how over the top they are.
Yep.
The Lord Lothar wants you to lead the charge across the Blackened Sea. It's like, oh, or Admiral Proudmoore. Yeah, he wasn't in this one, but it was. You're right, Orgrim Doomhammer. One thing that I didn't get. Do you remember there being a difference between green orcs and brown orcs? Is that a movie thing?
That is a more recent thing. I think World of Warcraft introduced that.
Okay.
So, and I know this from the fluff, the material.
If you've just seen the trailer, you'll notice that some of them are brown and some are green.
Right. So all orcs started brown, and then Gul'dan introduced the Fel, which is this evil magic that turned them green.
Right. And
so the ones that didn't the ones that didn't take the Fel didn't turn green.
Got it. See, that's one of those things that just don't make sense.
Right.
And I've even played the game and I didn't know that.
Well, of course, in some of the reviews, they're like, oh, they're trying to point out like racial undertones, and I'm like,
yeah.
No, it's just this is a very fan servicey kind of thing that you guys are that's not meant for you.
Yeah, and that was my main problem with the movie was that it just there are times where you watch it and you're looking at it and you go, wow, this looks pretty cool, like the magic stuff, the blue magic that the Guardian and what's that wizard's name again? Crap. Khadgar can do. I'm like, wow, that looks pretty cool. And then there's other times where you're going, this movie is very bright. Everything looks like it's made of like plastic. Did you get that sense?
I didn't get that sense watching, although I see what you're saying. It's definitely got a very. Part of me actually kind of wishes that we could see this in Technicolor.
Yeah. So let's this is not a fair comparison, but you remember the look of Lord of the Rings. It was very blended, like everything felt even in terms of color and visuals, and it felt like it was really there.
And if anything, Lord of the Rings is a little on the drab side.
Right. And then Warcraft was just bright and stark, and the armor and everything just looked fake. Even the practical effects.
There were a lot of times where I was sitting there going, this is guys on a green screen.
Yes.
Like bad guys on a green screen. I know this is all CGI. 4 feet behind the actors is just a screen.
Yeah. Now there were some scenes that looked really good. Stormwind looked really nice.
Stormwind for the most part. There were a couple times in Stormwind where I was like, there's only about 6 feet of actual set here.
Yeah. And then they had the Guardian place that looked pretty cool, and then the floating cities that I don't remember from the game, so it must be a World of Warcraft thing.
You don't ever see the floating cities. They're talked about. The Corinne Tor was talked about.
Okay. So there were some of it looked okay, but again, for the most part, the special effects just looked cheesy to me. And
yeah.
I just think the acting was really
stiff.
Yeah, really lackluster. The guy I was seeing it with, he does like theater acting. And I turn over to him and I go, there's that scene where Lothar, towards the end of the film, like freaks out and yells at the king and they have to like restrain him. And I turn to him and I go, when you see acting like that, does that make you a little mad? Like just a little bit, like deep down inside, knowing that these guys are making millions of dollars while you're busting your butt on a stage? He's like, yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah. Lothar was not particularly good. I was actually really disappointed with Dominic Cooper. I didn't realize it was Dominic Cooper until just now. But I was really disappointed with him as the king.
Yeah, he was bad. That character, the king character, was so lame. He was so difficult to root for.
Oh, so like my least. probably the worst scene in the movie to me was at the end between Lane and Garona.
Right.
First of all,
yeah.
it looked terrible because it was obviously, it almost looked like, the 1950s, 1960s where they were driving, and so they'd have an actual like screen, like movie screen running behind the fake car. That's what it looked like. There's all this fighting going on behind them, and they're basically like acting in front of a movie screen.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, that's most of this film. And it had that kind of feel of those 1980s sword and sorcery films.
Yeah, a little bit.
Those really cheesy 1980s sword and sorcery films where the actors feel like they're phoning it in. Just all of them felt like they were phoning it in. And can we just talk about Garona? That character had no reason to be in this movie.
Yeah.
At all. It did nothing. And there's that scene where Lothar's like, what if he's lying? Well, orcs don't lie, but what if he is? But he's not. What if he is? Like, that when I was sitting there going, did that scene just happen?
That was yeah, I was like this is actually in the script?
Yeah,
Like,
that scene just happened.
Please tell me please tell me they ad-libbed that.
Right.
No, there were a few scenes like that.
And here's my big issue with this movie is in the first game, the orcs win, right? The orcs defeat Azeroth, and when you pick up the second game,
sack the fuck out of Stormwind.
Yeah, destroy it, and you play as Lordaeron in the second game, and the refugees of Azeroth, and you counterattack, and that's the whole idea.
Right.
So I was kind of expecting like a really dark film about, a kingdom dying and friends not coming to its aid and all that other stuff.
Or at least a really dark ending.
Yeah. And this movie, for the most part, again, it starts off really sharp, really quick. The action and the events happen very fast, almost to the point where you can't catch your breath.
Yeah, I would actually say that in the beginning, and I don't say this often, I really, again, even knowing the source material, I could have used some more exposition.
Yeah, I mean, the just stuff happens. Like, the portal opens and shit just starts to happen.
Yep.
And then you're like, okay, the whole premise of the movie is they've got to close the giant gate that's going to bring the horde through.
Yep.
Now, in the game, that gate is open, and you've got to destroy it yourself.
Right, that game never, that the portal never closes.
Yeah, the portal never closed. It was open, and it was there, and you find out all this backstory. And in this movie, the whole point is we're going to attack, and we're going to close the portal. And I'm like, holy shit. We're going to see the humans lose and the horde spill through, and then it just... That doesn't happen. Weirdness ensues, as you pointed out. Garona and the king have this very strange scene at the foot of the portal, getting the refugees that they're rescuing, because the portal is powered by a sacrifice.
Right.
And then Lothar and Mini-Mage are fighting Medivh, the Guardian, because it turns out he's been the bad guy the whole time.
Right, he's possessed by a demon.
Yeah. And then the king asks Garona to kill him because that will make her a hero and bring somehow peace to us. And then Lothar shows up at the last second and kills Doom. Like, that whole sequence at the end was just so unfulfilling.
Yeah, and like they're picking and choosing from the sword, having read some of the background stuff. So like, at least in the fluff material, Garona is the one who murders King Lane. Mm-hmm. But murder is the proper term because she's supposed to be an advisor, and during the sacking of Stormwind, she stabs him in the back. Mm-hmm. Like, she basically does it like, she basically makes a deal with Gul'dan and murders the king, and at that point the defenses collapse.
Right, okay.
This like, the hero thing, that was nonsense. Like, there was just a bunch of... Yeah, what actually got me even more was, like, the ritual combats at the end.
Yeah, that was strange. So, here's the thing. The big orc, Duratan,
yeah,
and his kind of rebellion, really had no place in this story arc. It comes into play in the second game. Actually, both the humans and the orcs have their own mini rebellions within them, and that's kind of interesting. It didn't seem to have any place in this movie.
So Durotan stuff is actually before what you're thinking of.
Mm-hmm.
At least in the game timeline, Durotan's stuff is actually that's actually correct at the correct time.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it actually starts really before the orcs even come to Azeroth.
Oh, okay.
But it was just like the honor fights, like the fact that Gul'dan was some like super buff fuck underneath the robes instead of some like weak, shriveled up weakling.
Mm-hmm.
That was weird. Like the fact that Lothar kills Blackhand in like 8 seconds.
Yeah.
That was super anticlimactic. Like they're circling each other, and it was like one move, dead.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like, "Oh, well, he won, so we got to let him go."
All that stuff
I don't think that's how it works.
Yeah, I don't. It was just strange. And then I don't know why the elves have glowing eyes. I don't remember them having glowing eyes. It looked stupid.
There was one of the elf. I think it was one of the elves who just had the most derpy face, like with the glowing eyes. Just had like super derp face going on. I started laughing in the middle of the scene. I was like, it was like in the middle of the funeral scene. I was just like laughing.
The problem is they packed so much crap in this film that if they just trimmed it down a little bit, I think it would have been fine.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I think at this point, given the reviews and everything it's getting, unless a whole bunch of World of Warcraft nerds go and see it all repeatedly, I don't think this is getting the sequel they hope for.
Well, so the Hollywood, I got to find it again, but the Hollywood Reporter has a good article on this. This movie was released worldwide before it came here, and it made a decent amount of money in Asia, between Korea, Japan, and especially China. So it may be this is a thing that's happening in movies right now, is studios are releasing films for the foreign market, and the foreign market appears to be saving certain franchises, and a really good example of this is Terminator Genisys. Terminator Genisys did not do well in the United States.
Yeah.
Everyone went, "What the hell are you doing? Why did you make this movie? This movie is stupid." And all of a sudden, it's a huge hit in China. Huge. And now there is rumors, I gotta find the article, I don't know where it is. There was an article out there, something like, China is the reason you're gonna get Terminator Genisys 2, or something like that. Or you're gonna get a sequel to Terminator Genisys. So, I'll dig it up for you. But, I should have, this just popped in my head, so I should have prepped more. But, it is distinctly possible we're going to get another Warcraft film because of the foreign market. They may not give it as big a budget, because this was a fairly sizable budget film.
Yeah, it was.
But if they don't make a sequel, we won't be surprised. If they do make a sequel, I still won't be surprised.
Yeah. So anything good that stood out to you in this movie?
Not really, other than what I said earlier, the magic. Like, the way the magic looked, I thought that was kind of cool. But, I mean, really, I didn't enjoy it. I was just like, this is dumb. I didn't hate it. Okay, so I'm sorry, I'm just pulling it up as we're talking. So, Warcraft premiered June 6th, right, here in the United States, but It had been released prior. The film, obviously, has gotten negative reviews, but worldwide, it's a $313 million film.
Yeah, what's the budget on it, though?
160.
They're probably at least at break even then.
They're going to about break even on this one, and
because honestly, I don't feel like there's been a whole lot of marketing for this one.
Yeah, the marketing's been pretty strange with certain movies, and again, I'm not on TV, so I don't watch TV, so I basically just pick up things from the theaters and what I see billboards out and about and internet ads, and it got some play. The thing is, and you're going to have to double check me on this one, the longer a movie is in theaters, the more money the studio gets. So like for the opening weekend, they basically split it 50-50. And the longer the movie's going to be in theaters, the more they're going to make their money on it. So
Right.
that's the reason why Zootopia and Jungle Book did really well for Disney. Right
Oh,
now,
yeah.
those were big hits because they stayed in the theaters a long while. It's tough,
As a side note, I actually watched Zootopia this morning, and it actually wasn't bad.
isn't it? The cutest movie about a police state you're ever going to see. But that movie did very, very well. That movie did really well. So did Jungle Book. So the longer they're out, Jungle Book was #1 for 3 weeks and stayed in theaters for
Yeah.
4 or 5 weeks after that. That's something. So this one, I don't know. I really don't know. We were talking about this before we hit record. Movie audience, it's so hard to predict where movie audiences are going these days. It's either big, well-known franchises that have been around since the late 70s and not before, or something new animation film hits us from left field.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how to explain it, but we will see.
Yeah. I mean, I'm really underwhelmed by this. Like I said, given the reviews that were coming in, I was actually hoping for something pretty spectacularly awful. I didn't get that. I really was just kind of, okay, I know this material, but I'm sitting there going, like, when are we going to make this interesting?
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. It just
And it actually went from more interesting to less interesting. Like, it got more tedious as the film went on. It started off well enough, and if they'd been able to even maintain that same level, I think it would have been okay.
yeah,
But
I agree.
it just tapered off real bad.
Oh, I mean, yeah, the movie starts at an amazing clip. They're through the portal. They're raiding the human villages. Lothar is trying to establish defenses. And then all of a sudden it slows down right around the time Duratan wants a parley with the king.
Yeah.
And
Just
right
to,
at that
to a
moment,
screeching halt.
it just starts to slowly tumble into nothing. And I think it's just not, it wasn't interesting. And I said this in the previous podcast when we did the previews of 2016 movies. This movie looks dumb. I think most people had the same sense I did. They looked at it and went, this looks dumb.
Yeah, I think though that they were kind of the studio's kind of banking on, you know, the hardcore World of Warcraft fans, and kind of the people who are casually familiar with the franchise.
Yeah.
And I mean, let's be honest, they got my money and maybe got yours.
This time, yes.
I mean, you know, that's always kind of up in the air with you. So, you know, I mean, they got our money, but at the same time, like, I guess the residuals from this, in terms of like the Blu-ray sales and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
you know, that kind of money for the studio just won't be there.
No, and I'm sorry, I made a mistake. It came out premiered, but it was also released in China on the 6th, and then the rest of the U.S. on the 10th.
Okay.
I'm trying to figure out production company is Legendary, Blizzard, and Atlas. So Legendary, you know, I always make fun of like Legendary and Lionsgate. They tend to they do take chances. It's distributed through Universal, so
Yeah, I want to say Legendary did Hellboy.
they did Godzilla.
Yeah.
I always make fun of Lionsgate. They're the ones that always make the cheap horror, and I was like, when I see the Lionsgate logo, I'm like, Lionsgate, if you got cheap crap, we're gonna make it.
Yeah. There's just so much cheap crap horror out there.
Dude, that's where all the money is. It's like, it's either super cheap horror movies or big budget properties. And again,
Yep.
it's big budget properties that have been around since the late 70s, but not before. 'Cause any attempt at a big budget property prior to 1976 tanks super hard.
Yeah, or Marvel superheroes.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I consider that big budget property at this point. I
Yeah,
think that's,
I mean, yes, although I mean, realistically, we've only been seeing the superhero movies. Let's see, not quite 10 years. Iron Man was 9 years ago.
right. We've talked about this. I've always started that at the year 2000 with the first X-Men. I don't count Blade because Blade felt more like a 90s action film than a superhero film.
Yeah, also, I don't think most people realize that was a Marvel a Marvel series.
Yeah, no, I agree. But that's, I mean, what more can you say? I mean, it's another video game movie.
It's still not Super
question.
Mario Brothers.
No, it's not. But here's the question: what? It's just Hollywood. Even all right. So Duncan Jones was a fan of this series. The whole idea is that we're going to put this in the hands of someone who loved it, and they still couldn't pull it off. What the hell is going on with video games? It's just something about them.
Yeah, part of me, at least on this one, part of me wants to say that, the guys doing like the writing, and this is just, I'm spitballing here, but the guys doing the writing are probably, I mean, Duncan Jones has got one of the screenplay credits, and the guy Charles Leavitt, let's see.
I don't know anything about this guy.
Yeah, he's done some stuff. K-Pax, Blood Diamond.
Oh God, he did In the Heart of the Sea.
Yeah.
That was bad. That was really bad. Was he the producer or writer?
Yeah, he was the writer for that.
Oh, that was really bad. That was it. Did you see that one?
I did not.
He did The Seventh Son. That was really dumb too. I see why now. You do The Seventh Son, the Warcraft. K-Pax I never saw.
So here, Chris Metzen is actually the artist. I feel like a lot of guys who just, their input in this is from the video game side, and things that work in video games don't work in other medias. I read the the novels, not like the movie novel, but the novels that the movie covers, and I'm sitting here going, this is kind of dumb, crappy, effectively modern Pulp Fiction. And I'm reading it and I'm like, this is kind of dumb. And then I read it and then I see it on the screen. I'm like, yeah, this is even dumber, like looking at it.
Yeah, there's something about seeing it and hearing it in your head or on a video game, you kind of give video games a pass. When you see like live human beings trying to pull this off, you're like, God, this is stupid.
Yeah.
Do you remember those Red Alert games and Command and Color games where they actually got actors to act out the in-between mission parts?
Yep.
Like Billy D. Williams is in like one of the Command and Conquer games, and like I think Jenny McCarthy did Red Alert 3 or something ridiculous like that. And just, oh, this is really stupid.
Yeah, but I feel like there was a lot of like video game writing, as opposed to like Hollywood writing.
Yeah.
And I think there's a danger when it comes to people who are big fans of a franchise doing a film for that franchise.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a tendency for them to want to give it too much fan service, too many inside jokes, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work. Hey, if I'm playing, World of Warcraft, odds are I've played at least one of the other Warcraft games. I'll get the jokes.
Yeah. Oh, all right, so let's take a good example. Turning the dude into a sheep.
Right.
There was a scene where Lothar is in jail because he's drunk and he's starting fights. Yep. And the mage turns the guard into a sheep. So that was a move you could do from the games.
Yep.
That kind of stuff. That was at least funny, but made sense in context.
Yeah. And to be perfectly honest, I think I'd seen this interview, if they'd played more off of that kind of stuff, that plays not just to the fans, but to people who are unfamiliar or only very casually familiar with it.
Yeah.
I think that would have worked out much better.
I also think this movie suffered from a lack of sense of humor. There were a few jokes, but there were times where it was like, it's like, oh wait, it's been a while since we've had a joke. We better put a joke in. Yeah, and they weren't good.
No,
they were not good. I mean, I can't really think of any, so I'll defer to you on that one. But
I think there's like some of the humor they were trying to borrow from. There was the James Franco movie, This Is the End.
Yeah.
And like you really liked it, I couldn't stand it. But there was like that back and forth. Well, that conversation, the what if conversation.
Oh
between between Lothar and Garona, the one we were just talking
Oh
about.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was tough.
Yeah, that felt like an even more forced version of some of the stuff from This Is the End.
Yeah.
Where the humor, it was pretty base level humor. Did a lot of that back and forth of just repeating the same argument, camera bouncing back and forth, except it was done even less well. It's terrible English, but like This Is the End, like that wasn't very good. It wasn't a very good joke to start with, and this just felt like they did a bad joke poorly.
Yeah, no, I see what you're talking. I mean, look, final verdict on this film, because I don't think we could say much more about a really bad film like this.
Right.
Is a nice attempt, but it was over budget. It didn't look well. They didn't get a good cast. It took itself too seriously, and in the end, the story just didn't cohere in any way. It started off too quick, ground to a halt, and then didn't have any kind of satisfying ending. Really,
right.
The end where Lothar holds the sword up, he's like, it was just silly.
Yeah.
Couldn't take the... So yeah, I wouldn't watch this again, and I wouldn't suggest anyone else go see it.
Yeah,
certainly not to pay for it.
Effort for trying, you get credit for trying, but only so much.
Yeah.
So, let's see, what have you been doing this week?
So, I have unpacked all the boxes that have been storing my books because I got 2 bookshelves. And I'm looking at them. It's one of those moments, I believe you might have the same problem I have, is where we bought just a bunch of stuff because, yeah, I'll read this. So I have entire collections of graphic novels that I'm like, oh, this series seems really interesting, that I haven't even finished.
Yeah, I've got that problem.
So, yeah, I'm looking at, 100 Bullets. I've only finished maybe half of it. Or Northlanders. I read the first 2. I have all 7 volumes. I read the first 2. Or, Akira. Read the first 2. I got 6. I got shit like that. So, or Conan. I got the Dark Horse Conan. So I'm starting from volume 0, where they talk about Conan's early life. And I picked up a couple historical books. Got a nice book on Waterloo.
Like Conan the Awkward Teenager?
Kind of, Conan. More like Conan the Awkward Teenager accidentally cripples his friend. Stuff like that.
Nice.
Or Conan punches someone too hard and he dies, and everyone's like, "It's Conan, man!" It's just that literally is the line. It's like, it's Conan. That's what he does. He punches you and you die. So yeah, there's that, and I'm looking around, and there's a bunch of stuff I want to sit down and start reading, and like you said, I've been trying to really take notes on the Napoleonic Wars. And I got the book on the Battle of Austerlitz that I'm reading through. But I did want to talk about a couple movies that I saw. I would really recommend seeing this movie called The Nice Guys with Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe.
Yeah.
If you like, it's done by Shane Black, the same guy who did Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, and it's really, really, really good. It's as someone who grew up in the '90s and liked those Tarantino-esque movies.
He also did Iron Man 3 and...
Yes, but I don't count that.
What's it do?
It's not many. It's only a handful of films. But it's really, really cool. And we saw Alice Through the Looking Glass last night, and I don't have any...
He also wrote Lethal Weapon.
Yeah, he's written a lot. But this is like one of his directorial. He's working on the Doc Savage screenplay.
Yeah, I see that.
I know that much.
He's also announced as the director.
Oh, okay, good. So I really liked it. I hope they do another one of these. I don't think they will because I don't think it made a lot of money, but it was really cool. And we saw Alice Through the Looking Glass. It was one of those movies where I don't know why they made this one. It was all right, but it was just why. I don't remember the first Alice in Wonderland being anything particularly special, and then 6 years later they spring this on us, and it just was kind of strange. It was strange, and it also did not do very well. $5 million on the weekend. So.
Yeah, I mean, there's, you and I have talked about this before, mostly based on Rich's comment for Hellboy 2.
Yeah, that was back of the... Did you ask for that? I was like, no, sorry. The funny part is, I actually did like Hellboy too, but the point is well taken. If no one asked for another Alice in Wonderland movie,
But like, at least in certain cases, like I realize like who some of these people are. Like Hellboy 2, you want to know who asked for that?
who?
Is Del Toro, Guillermo del Toro.
Yes,
Because, and he's got enough pull in Hollywood that, yeah, okay, well, yeah, sure, go do it. I don't give a shit.
Oh, you know what? I'm so glad you mentioned that. So let's just to talk about, for those of you who actually do want to see another Warcraft film, the reason why we're getting a Pacific Rim 2 is because of the foreign market. That's really it. I'll find that link in there somewhere too, because I read that. But anyway, you were saying.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just one of those like. I lost my thought there. Oh well.
Oh, who asked for it? Del Toro wanted.
Oh, yeah.
Del Toro has pull. Yes.
So I think
I don't know who had the pull to make Alice again.
Right. I was like looking at like what the hell has this guy done? Not that much. I mean, like he did Muppets Most Wanted.
We're talking about James Bobbin or whatever it is for the director of Alice. Yeah, he introduced the film.
Muppets was good. The Muppets Most Wanted, Becky really likes it, but I'm not a big fan. He directed a bunch of Ali G stuff.
He's done a lot of comedy stuff.
Yeah, like he's directed like at least 2 different series from the Ali G show, and he directed 11 episodes from Flight of the Conchords.
Well, I'm looking at his credits right here, and I probably should have researched it before we start recording. But he's going to be doing that Men in Black 21 Jump Street crossover. He's doing MIB 23.
Who asked for for a 21 Jump Street sequel?
I didn't see 22 Jump. I liked the first one. Don't get me wrong. The 21 Jump Street was pretty good. I don't know who wanted a sequel, and crisscrossing them like this, we've had this conversation before. People want franchises. That's what people want.
Yep.
And Sony wants their own franchise, so that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah. So, let's see this week. So I started listening to the audiobook of Battlefield Earth, which the audiobook it's not badly done. It's actually like a cast recording, so they've actually got like different actors actually doing.
I like it when they do that.
Yeah, that's kind of nice. Although I'm listening to this, then I'm going, this was a lot better when I was 17. Like when I didn't, I think my knowledge and my expectations were lower.
You had the patience to read that fucking tome at 17?
Yeah, that's what so, and you can ask him about this, my best friend SB. I sat and actually, I was reading that during Spanish class for 2 weeks.
Okay, that makes more sense.
I was so bored in class, I turned 90 degrees away from the teacher and sat and read my book.
And they didn't give you any, they didn't catch that?
Oh no, she was pissed as fuck. She went off on me one time, and I'm like, all right, so what I got on the last 3 quizzes? You got a 95, a 97, and a 94. Obviously I'm picking up the information you're putting out, so I don't see what the problem is. Man, that teacher and I did not get along.
Well, that's priceless.
Yeah. So, yeah, I can't remember if I made it 100% all the way through, but I'm sitting listening to this now, and it's this is science fiction. It was written I think in the 80s.
Battlefield Earth?
Yeah.
The book Battlefield Earth was written in the 80s?
I think so. I've got an introduction from let's look.
Are we talking about the same Battlefield Earth, the L. Ron Hubbard? I thought that was from the 50s. He was dead in the 80s.
No, he wasn't. He was not dead in the 80s, because I definitely... 1982.
Really? Holy shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, so it starts off with an introduction, not read by him, but one he wrote from the early, from shortly after the book was published. And it's an interesting... The introduction's actually really interesting, where he talks about this being a book of pure science fiction.
Right.
And his definition of science fiction and the book, it's a little like your Texas Sharpshooter.
Oh, yeah.
Where he wrote the book and then basically defined science fiction so that the book is a perfect example of pure science fiction.
He defined his own genre.
Yeah. No, like, and he's a little boastful on it, but he's not necessarily wrong in that he is one of the, he was back in the 30s to 50s one of the pioneers of science fiction writing.
Right. Pulp science fiction writing.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So I mean, the man does deserve some credit. The other thing that's funny listening to that introduction is he talks about his more serious work.
Oh.
Right, and he refers to it as his serious works.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you who don't realize, that's Dianetics. That's the bullshit nonsense that Scientology is based on.
Yeah.
Right, the science fiction religion.
Did you ever watch that documentary, Going Clear?
No.
It's worth it. It's long, but it's absolutely worth it.
I don't I don't know if it's true, but I love the rumor story that basically L. Ron Hubbard invented Scientology because of a bet with Isaac Asimov that he couldn't do it, that he couldn't make a science fiction religion.
Right.
And Asimov, the devout Christian, I'm sure would just like, damn it.
I don't know if it's true either, but I love telling that story anyway.
Right. No, I love it just based on just on the concept. Yeah, I mean, some of it's having been written in the 80s, or at least released in the 80s. Like, for being a science fiction novel, like, some of the science is really fucking awful. I mean, like fundamentally wrong. Like, I mean, like right now, it's fairly common scientific knowledge that space and time are one. Right?
Yes.
It's space time.
Yes.
He makes a very clear statement that space and time are not the same thing.
Oh, so he goes back to the Newtonian space as a stage and stuff like that.
Not like space as a stage. Not even space as a stage. But just to explain, to give a layman's explanation of how the teleportation works, is that basically space and time are not at all related. So you can just take a chunk of space and move it to another place.
Right.
Which also violates, other Einsteinian principles, like E equals MC squared. The Heisenberg uncertainty principle.
Yeah, I mean, you could just a litany of this.
Right, and it's like stuff that is well known in science fields.
Yeah, I mean, just lay science people know, about warping of space-time, the basic idea of general relativity.
Right. So
all that kind of stuff.
I'm sitting listening to it and I'm enjoying it, but it's it's all right. Like it's well performed, but it's also. The character's a little one-dimensional. Like, the villain who thinks he's super clever is really a fucking idiot. And he's obviously an idiot, and he's obviously going to lose.
Yeah.
And it's not even like a real, like... Yes, there are obstacles for the heroes to overcome, but they're pretty, like, surface.
Yeah, they're pretty pedestrian.
Yeah.
Like, you and I could get out of this one.
Yeah. Hey, we need to find uranium. Okay. Like that's a big part of it. And then this is a really complicated process, but eventually, of course they find uranium. Of course they have it. Of course they find what they need. So it just it makes it fairly predictable. So, I'm enjoying it. It's one of those it's worth taking a chance, and it's worth taking a listen to again. It is at least well performed.
One of Mitt Romney's favorite novels.
Really?
Yes, I'll find it for you on the campaign trail. They asked him what was one of his favorite books, and he's like, I don't agree with the guy's politics or his philosophy or anything, but Battlefield Earth was a really fun book.
I mean, more power to it. I don't agree with Bernie Sanders' principle. Bernie Sanders in basically any form. But damn it, I got to respect the fact that the guy, is sticking to his guns the whole time.
Yeah. I got a bunch of links I got to send you now.
Oh, of course. We'll see how many libertarian links you can slip in.
I've been pretty good.
And drive Tracy mental.
I've been pretty good this time.
Let's see. Other things I've been doing. Game of Thrones. Tomorrow is...
Battle of the Bastards.
Yeah, Battle of the Bastards. So, see episode 9 of this season. Horrible things happen in episode 9 every season.
Yes, but I don't think it'll be.
No, I mean, I suspect it'll be a happy-ish.
Yeah,
ending.
I don't. I have. There have been no surprises in this season, and I don't expect there to be surprises.
Speaking of Game of Thrones, I have been reading, and speaking of George R. R. Martin histories, I've been reading the whatever the I can't remember the title now. It's the big history book for Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm.
While sitting on my throne. I've gotten through all of the Targaryen kings.
Okay.
Or I'm up to basically the end of the reign of Aerys II, which is the Mad King that basically kind of sets in motion all of the characters we start the show with. Ned Stark and Robert Baratheon, and so that's been kind of fun.
Good.
Yeah, that's about it though.
Okay then.
All right, folks, if you like what we do, make sure you head on over to thereforeigeek.com. You can check out our blog posts and our podcasts. You can find us on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram. And you can find this podcast and other podcasts like it on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and YouTube. Make sure you subscribe, leave us reviews, comment. If we're right, if we're wrong, if you're a diehard Warcraft fan and you feel like fighting Dude on why we're wrong, Dude will fight you.
Yeah, I'll do that. I don't care. No self-preservation on this side.
We do accept Mortal Kombat challenges, but you've got to come to us.
Yeah, we really can't pay the travel fee.
Yeah. So once again, I'm Andrew.
I'm Dude.
And you've been listening to Therefore I Geek.
I found the clip of him loving Battlefield Earth just now. I found it.